The neutral zone. The United Earth Council had maintained strict neutrality for 50 years since humanity discovered faster-than-light travel. While other species fought brutal wars across the galaxy, Earth watched from the sidelines, trading with all sides but fighting for none. This policy had made humanity wealthy and respected, but some in the galaxy saw it as weakness. Ambassador Sarah Chen stood before the massive viewport of Station Harmony, Earth's diplomatic outpost at the edge of human space. She watched merchant ships from a dozen different species dock and depart, carrying goods that had made Earth an economic powerhouse. The station itself was a testament to human engineering, a gleaming structure that rotated slowly to provide artificial gravity without the power drain of gravity generators used by other species. Her assistant, Marcus Webb, entered the observation deck with urgent news. Ambassador, we have an incoming transmission from the Corvan Empire. Supreme Executor Drax himself wants to speak with you. Sarah frowned. The Corvans were currently engaged in their third war of expansion this decade, crushing smaller civilizations and absorbing their territories. Earth had refused to sell them weapons, maintaining neutrality, but continued trading food and medical supplies. This delicate balance had kept humanity out of the conflict. Put him through to the main conference room, Sarah said, straightening her diplomatic uniform. And alert Earth Command. Something tells me this isn't a trade negotiation. The holographic projector in the conference room flickered to life, revealing Supreme Executor Drax. The Corvan leader was massive, standing 3 meters tall with scales that shifted from black to deep purple. His forearms were crossed in what Sarah recognized as a gesture of dominance in Corvan culture. Behind him, she could see the bridge of his flagship, crew members scurrying about their duties. Ambassador Chen, Drax began without greeting, his voice a low rumble that the translator struggled to convey properly. The Corvan Empire has been patient with Earth's refusal to choose sides in our righteous expansion. That patience has ended. Sarah remained calm, though her heart rate increased. This was the moment Earth's leadership had feared might come. Supreme Executor, Earth values its relationships with all galactic powers. Our neutrality has served the galaxy well, providing humanitarian aid and trade to all who need it. Drax's scaled face contorted in what might have been a smile or a sneer. Your neutrality is cowardice disguised as principle. The Corvan Empire now controls 70% of this galactic arm. The remaining resistance will fall within the year. You have one Earth rotation to decide. Join us as a vassal state or be designated an enemy of the Empire. That's not much of a choice, Sarah replied, her voice steady despite the threat. Earth has no interest in becoming anyone's vassal. We are a sovereign world with the right to determine our own path. The Corvan leader leaned forward, his image growing larger in the projection. Rights are earned through strength, Ambassador. Your species is young, barely out of your home system for half a century. You've built merchant ships and trading posts, not warships. The Talaxian Republic thought their rights mattered too. Now their homeworld burns as an example to others who resist. Sarah felt sick at the mention of Telex. The peaceful aquatic species had been known for their art and philosophy. Reports of their destruction had been censored in Corvan space, but Earth's intelligence network had obtained footage of the genocide. Entire ocean cities had been boiled away from orbit. We need time to consult with our government, Sarah said, buying time as her neural implant sent an emergency signal to Earth Command. A decision of this magnitude cannot be made by one ambassador. You have one rotation, Drax repeated. My fleet is already moving toward your borders. If you choose wrongly, humanity will learn what happens to those who stand against the Corvan Empire. Your neutrality has made you wealthy, but wealth cannot stop plasma cannons. The transmission ended abruptly, leaving Sarah alone with Marcus in the suddenly quiet conference room. Her assistant looked pale, his hands trembling slightly as he processed what they had just heard. Should we evacuate the station? Marcus asked. Sarah shook her head. No, that would signal fear. Continue normal operations, but quietly prepare evacuation protocols. She activated her secure communication link. Priority 1 message to Earth Command. The Corvans have issued an ultimatum. Recommend immediate activation of Project Fortress. What Supreme Executor Drax didn't know was that Earth's neutrality had been carefully calculated, not born from weakness. For 50 years, while selling mining equipment and agricultural supplies to the galaxy, humanity had been studying every species' technology, tactics, and weaknesses. The merchant ships that visited alien ports had been scanning military installations. The diplomatic missions had been gathering intelligence. Admiral Jessica Thompson received Sarah's message in the secure command bunker buried beneath the rocky mountains on Earth. She had been expecting this day since she took command of Earth's military forces 10 years ago. Around her, officers were already implementing protocols that had been rehearsed countless times in secret. Activate all dormant defense platforms, she ordered. Bring the Ghost Fleet online, and send the wake-up signal to our sleeper ships. For 50 years, Earth had been building a military force in absolute secrecy. Automated factories on asteroids throughout the solar system had been constructing warships disguised as mining vessels. The moon's far side, always hidden from outside observation, housed massive weapons installations. Mars had been hollowed out to create shipyards that could produce 100 vessels simultaneously. The merchant fleet that traded throughout the galaxy included ships with modular designs. With a few hours of work, cargo haulers could be transformed into battle cruisers. Mining lasers could be recalibrated into weapons that could slice through shields and armor. The defensive satellites that supposedly protected Earth from asteroids were actually weapons platforms that could target ships at the edge of the solar system. Dr. James Park, Earth's leading weapons researcher, had spent decades studying Corvan technology from captured debris and black market purchases. He knew their shields operated on a frequency modulation that seemed impenetrable to energy weapons. But humans had discovered something unique. Kinetic weapons moving at specific velocities could cause a resonance effect that would shatter their shields like glass. Admiral Thompson, Dr. Park reported from his laboratory, the railgun modifications are complete. We can guarantee shield penetration on Corvan capital ships at 97% efficiency. Jessica smiled grimly. And they think we're just traders and farmers. How many ships can we field? If we activate everything, including the converted merchant fleet, we can put 3,000 combat-ready vessels in space within 6 hours. The Corvans typically field fleets of 500 ships for their conquest operations. They won't send that many against Earth, Jessica predicted. They think we're weak. They'll send just enough to make an example of us. That will be their mistake. As Earth's military machine quietly came to life, Ambassador Chen maintained the facade of diplomatic panic. She sent messages to other neutral worlds warning them of the Corvan ultimatum. She knew these messages would be intercepted by Corvan intelligence, reinforcing their belief that Earth was scrambling for help. The Galactic Council, a largely ceremonial body since the Corvan expansion began, called an emergency session. Representative Yola of the Centauri Collective spoke first through the quantum communication link. Earth has been a beacon of peace and trade. If the Corvans are allowed to conquer them, no neutral world will be safe. And what would you have us do? Asked Morgath of the Saurian Federation, one of the few powers still capable of resisting the Corvans. We've lost 40% of our fleet holding our borders. We cannot spare ships to defend Earth. Sarah, participating in the session from Station Harmony, played her role perfectly. We're not asking for military aid. We're simply informing the galaxy of the situation. Earth will make its decision based on what's best for our people. What she didn't say was that Earth had already made its decision. In secure facilities across the planet, soldiers were boarding assault ships. The entire population had been quietly prepared through years of emergency drills disguised as natural disaster preparations. Underground bunkers could shelter billions if necessary. 20 hours into the 24-hour ultimatum, long-range sensors detected the Corvan fleet approaching Earth's borders. As predicted, Drax had sent 300 ships, enough to overwhelm what he believed was Earth's token defense force of perhaps 50 vessels. Admiral Thompson watched the tactical display from her command center. All Ghost Fleet vessels remain powered down until my signal. Let them come deep into the system. We want them too committed to retreat when we spring the trap. The Corvan fleet, led by War Master Krex, Drax's most brutal commander, approached Earth with contemptuous confidence. They had conquered 17 civilizations, each falling within days of the first attack. Earth would be no different. As the deadline approached, Sarah Chen delivered Earth's official response from Station Harmony, knowing it would be the last diplomatic communication before everything changed. She stood straight, looking directly into the camera that would transmit her message across the galaxy. Supreme Executor Drax, Earth has considered your ultimatum. For 50 years, we have maintained neutrality not from cowardice but from a desire for peace. We have watched you conquer and destroy. We have seen the ruins of Telex, the slave camps on Borea Prime, the mining operations that strip entire worlds bare. Earth's answer is simple: no. We will not be your vassals. We will not stand by while you terrorize the galaxy, and despite what you believe, we are not weak. She paused, knowing that her next words would echo through history. You have provoked the wrong species. Earth declares that any Corvan ship entering our space will be considered an act of war. You wanted us to choose a side. We choose to stand against tyranny. We choose to fight. When Giants Wake War Master Krex laughed when he received Earth's response aboard his flagship, the Decimator. The bridge crew joined in his amusement, their scaled faces showing sharp teeth. These humans were even more foolish than intelligence reports had suggested. They actually thought their trading vessels and obsolete defense satellites could stop a Corvan battle fleet. All ships prepare for bombardment pattern Theta, Krex ordered. We'll turn their capital cities to glass first, then accept their surrender. Supreme Executor Drax wants this done quickly as an example to other neutral worlds. The Corvan fleet crossed into Earth's designated territory, their formations perfect, their shields at maximum power. They expected to face perhaps a few dozen converted merchant ships, maybe some hastily assembled defense platforms. What they encountered instead would become legend throughout the galaxy. Admiral Thompson watched the Corvan fleet pass the outer marker, the point of no return. All units execute Operation Goliath, show them why Earth stayed out of their wars. Suddenly, space around the Corvan fleet erupted with activity. What had appeared to be asteroids were actually camouflaged weapons platforms. Defunct satellites came online, revealing themselves as missile launchers. The Ghost Fleet, 300 warships that had been drifting with powered-down systems, roared to life. Within seconds, the Corvans found themselves surrounded by over 1,000 combat vessels. But the real surprise came from Earth's moon. Massive doors opened on the lunar surface, revealing railguns the size of skyscrapers. These weapons had been built in secret over decades, using technology that humans had developed independently. They fired projectiles of specially designed alloys at velocities that approached 10% of light speed. The first volley from the lunar cannons struck the Corvan fleet before they could react. The kinetic projectiles hit with the force of nuclear weapons, but more importantly, they created the resonance effect Dr. Park had predicted. Corvan shields, impregnable to energy weapons, shattered like crystal struck by a tuning fork. War Master Krex watched in horror as 3 of his heavy cruisers simply ceased to exist, vaporized by impacts that his scientists had said were impossible. Evasive maneuvers. Return fire! How do they have such weapons? The human fleet moved with coordination that surprised even their own commanders. Years of secret training exercises had prepared them for this moment. Fighter squadrons launched from hidden carriers, using tactics adapted from atmospheric combat that the Corvans had never encountered. Instead of the straightforward assault patterns used by most spacefaring species, human pilots performed complex maneuvers that originated from ancient aerial combat. Captain Marcus Rodriguez led Lightning Squadron in an attack run on the Decimator itself. His fighters were small, agile craft that the Corvans had dismissed as insignificant, but each one carried antimatter torpedoes, another technology humans had developed while pretending to be simple traders. Lightning leader to all squadrons, Rodriguez broadcasted. Remember your training. They expect us to fight like everyone else they've conquered. Let's show them how humans wage war. The fighters dove through the Corvan formation, too small and fast for the massive ship's weapons to track effectively. They targeted specific weak points that human intelligence had identified through years of careful observation. Engine manifolds, shield generators, communication arrays, all were struck with surgical precision. Meanwhile, the converted merchant fleet revealed their true nature. Cargo bays opened to release swarms of combat drones, mining lasers reconfigured into cutting beams that could slice through hull armor. Transport ships deployed marine assault pods toward disabled Corvan vessels. The battle was also being waged in cyberspace. Earth's quantum computers, supposedly used for trade calculations and navigation, turned their processing power toward breaking Corvan encryption. Within minutes, human electronic warfare specialists were inside the enemy's communication network, causing chaos among their fleet coordination. Lieutenant Eva Chang, one of Earth's top cyber warfare specialists, worked from a secure station on Earth. Admiral, I've accessed their fleet database. I'm transmitting false orders to their fighter wings. They're attacking their own ships. The psychological impact on the Corvins was devastating. They had expected to face frightened merchants begging for mercy. Instead, they faced a military force that had spent 50 years preparing for this exact moment. Every human ship knew exactly what to do. Every weapon was precisely calibrated for maximum effect against Corvin defenses. But Earth's greatest advantage was something the Corvins could never have predicted: human creativity and adaptability. While the Corvins fought with rigid tactics that had worked in their previous conquests, humans constantly changed their approach. When the Corvins adapted to one strategy, the humans had already moved on to another. General David Kim commanded the Marine forces preparing to board disabled Corvin ships. His soldiers wore powered armor that Earth had developed by studying and improving upon designs from multiple species. The suits were lighter than Corvin battle armor but provided better protection and mobility. "Remember," Kim told his troops, "we're not just fighting for Earth. We're fighting for every species the Corvins have enslaved or destroyed. Today we show the galaxy that tyranny has consequences." The boarding actions were swift and decisive. Human Marines used non-lethal weapons when possible, adhering to Earth's rules of engagement even in the heat of battle. This mercy confused the Corvins, who had always fought wars of annihilation. Surrendering Corvin soldiers were treated with dignity, given medical care, and secured safely. War Master Krex, watching his fleet being systematically dismantled, finally understood the truth. Earth hadn't stayed out of galactic conflicts because they were weak. They had stayed out because they knew how terrible they could be in war. Their neutrality had been a choice, not a necessity. "Send a message to Supreme Executor Drax," Krex ordered, his voice heavy with defeat. "Tell him we've made a terrible mistake. The humans are not prey. They are predators who chose to be peaceful." But it was too late for warnings. Admiral Thompson had already given the order for Phase 2 of the operation. While the Corvin fleet at Earth was being destroyed, sleeper ships that had been hidden throughout the galaxy for decades were activating. These vessels, disguised as derelict hulks or asteroid miners, were actually fully armed warships with elite crews. Commander Alan Foster commanded one such ship, the Vengeance, which had spent 3 years pretending to be a damaged freighter near the Corvin slave world of Borea Prime. "All hands, this is the commander. Today we stop hiding. Today we free the enslaved. Today humanity shows its true face." Across the galaxy, similar scenes played out. Hidden human forces struck at Corvin installations simultaneously. Slave camps were liberated, occupation forces were overwhelmed, and supply lines were cut. It was a coordinated assault that the Corvins, in their arrogance, had never imagined possible. The psychological warfare continued as well. Earth's broadcast networks, which had spent decades establishing themselves as entertainment providers throughout the galaxy, suddenly became weapons of information. They showed footage of Corvin atrocities, testimonies from liberated slaves, and evidence of the Empire's crimes against peaceful species. Sarah Chen, still at Station Harmony, coordinated the diplomatic offensive. Messages went out to every species that had suffered under Corvin rule. "Earth stands with you. We have weapons, supplies, and the will to fight. Join us, and together we can end the Corvin tyranny." The response was immediate and overwhelming. The Talaxian survivors, hiding in deep space, brought their knowledge of Corvin supply routes. The Saurian Federation, seeing the Corvins weakened, launched their own offensive. Even species that had been considered pacifist took up arms. Inspired by Earth's example, Supreme Executor Drax, watching his empire crumble from his throne room on the Corvin homeworld, finally contacted Earth directly. His image appeared before Admiral Thompson, but gone was the arrogance and contempt. In its place was something the galaxy had never seen from a Corvin leader: fear. "Admiral Thompson," Drax began, his voice lacking its usual commanding tone, "I propose a ceasefire. We can negotiate terms that—" "No," Jessica interrupted. "You had 50 years to negotiate with Earth. You chose threats and ultimatums instead. Now you'll face justice for your crimes. Earth's terms are simple: complete surrender, liberation of all enslaved species, trials for war crimes, and dismantling of your military forces. You cannot dictate terms to the Corvin Empire." Drax roared, some of his old fire returning. "We still have thousands of ships, millions of soldiers. And we have something you never counted on," Jessica replied calmly. We have the moral authority that comes from fighting for freedom rather than conquest. Your soldiers are already surrendering en masse, choosing mercy over loyalty to a dying empire. Your subjects are rising up on every world. Your time is over. The Battle of Earth, as it would be known in galactic history, lasted only 6 hours. The complete collapse of the Corvan Empire took 3 months. Earth's combined military, cyber, psychological, and diplomatic warfare had achieved what centuries of resistance by other species had failed to do. But humanity's greatest victory came not in conquest, but in what followed. Earth didn't claim the Corvan territories or establish their own empire. Instead, they helped liberated species reclaim their worlds, established democratic governments, and created a new galactic alliance based on mutual defense and shared prosperity. The old Galactic Council was replaced with a more robust organization, with Earth providing security guarantees to smaller species. The massive military force that Earth had revealed was not disbanded, but transformed into a peacekeeping force, ensuring that no single species could again threaten the galaxy's freedom. Dr. Park, reflecting on the conflict months later, spoke at a gathering of scientists from multiple species. The Corvans believed that neutrality was weakness, that peace was cowardice. They forgot that the most dangerous predator is often the one that chooses not to hunt. Earth stayed out of wars not because we couldn't fight, but because we understood the cost of violence. When forced to fight, we brought not just weapons but wisdom earned from our own bloody history. Ambassador Sarah Chen, now serving as Earth's representative to the new Galactic Alliance, stood before the assembled delegates. Let this be a lesson to future generations. Peace is not the absence of the ability to wage war, but the wisdom to avoid it when possible, and the courage to fight when necessary. Earth chose neutrality for 50 years. When that choice was taken from us, we chose justice. The transformation of the galaxy was remarkable. Species that had hidden in fear now traveled freely. Trade flourished without the threat of conquest. Scientific collaboration led to breakthroughs that benefited all. The Corvan homeworld itself, after trials and reconciliation efforts, was welcomed into the alliance as an equal member. Their warrior culture redirected toward protecting rather than conquering. Captain Rodriguez, promoted to admiral after the war, established the Galactic Defense Academy, where pilots from all species learned human combat tactics alongside their own traditions. War is sometimes inevitable, he taught his students, but it should always be the last option, never the first. The enslaved populations of Borea Prime and other worlds were freed and given support to rebuild their societies. Many chose to learn from Earth's example, developing their own hidden defense capabilities while maintaining peaceful relations with their neighbors. Years later, when historians analyzed the conflict, they identified the key moment when the war was truly won. It wasn't during the battle itself, but in Earth's response to victory. Instead of becoming the new oppressors, humans became teachers, protectors, and partners. They showed the galaxy that strength could be used for justice, that power could be tempered with wisdom. The story of Earth's intervention became legend throughout the galaxy, told in different ways by different species, but always with the same message. Those who threaten peace, who mistake restraint for weakness, who prey upon the innocent, will eventually face those who have the strength to fight and the wisdom to know when fighting is necessary. Earth had stayed out of wars for 50 years, building, learning, preparing. When the wrong enemy finally challenged them, they revealed not just military might, but the full potential of a species that had learned from its own violent past. The galaxy would never be the same. And for the first time in centuries, that was a good thing. The memorial erected on Earth's moon bore a simple inscription in every known language. We chose peace until peace was no longer possible. We fought not for conquest but for freedom. We won not through might alone but through unity with all who seek justice. Let this stand as warning and promise. Earth watches, Earth protects, Earth remembers.